Welcome everybody. Good morning from here at Pier 17 in San Francisco. I'm Mary Ellyn Johnson, the head of exhibitions at Swissnex, where we connect Switzerland with the western half of the US in art, science, innovation, and education. Just a note to you that today's event is being recorded. Today I'm thrilled to host the first program of many that we'll have with Geneva-based artist Lauren Huret. Lauren works in video installations, performances, and collages, and her research is based on the ongoing examination of the influence of media and tech culture on belief systems. Our discussion today marks the launch of her one-year online residency with Swissnex, where she continues her research on media bewitchment, illusions of automation, and the performative power of images. Throughout the next year, she'll focus on recovery and remedy processes from cursed media with events and actions such as collective workshops, seminars, and panel discussions. We're excited that Lauren can take her already 3 years of research around content moderation to the next level here in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley, where the tech industry lives. This residency will culminate in an exhibition in fall of 2021. For today's discussion, Lauren has invited Claire Hoffmann, who's an art historian and curator currently based at the Swiss Culturel Center in Paris, where she curates visual arts, architecture, and design exhibitions. Claire curated Lauren's first exhibition on the subject of content moderation in 2019, titled Praying for My Haters. Lauren will first present her project on content moderation and cursed imagery, and then together with Claire, we'll discuss this 2019 exhibition and publication. Following this, Lauren and I will discuss her intentions in the next year at Swissnex, and we'll close with an audience Q&A. So thank you, everybody. Welcome. And I'll hand you over to Lauren Huret and Claire Hoffmann.
Okay, thank you, Mary, so much. I hope everybody is hearing me well. I'm gonna start by presenting 2 key works, and then we're gonna talk about the show with Claire more fluently, more openly. So I hope you can see the first slide. So my name is Lauren Huret, and I'm a visual artist, and I live in Geneva. I became interested in content moderation 4 and 5 years ago already. I was working at that time on mythologies around AI, so AI for artificial intelligence, and automated processes. I became interested in belief system, on how we tend to believe in things we hardly understand, or how we use things that we hardly understand, how they work, operate, are managed, like social media, computers, for example. And accordingly so, how we tend to make up for our lack of knowledge and how our imagination is filling the gaps of our ignorance. That's what I'm really interested about. So back in the days around 2014, I stumbled upon an article online in the Wire magazine written by Adrian Chen about content moderation. The article mentions thousands of people in Manila or in Manila suburbs in the Philippines doing a job that is called content moderators. This job consists to basically look through content that users post on social media platforms and decide if the content is appropriate or not, if the content has to be removed from the platform, or if it can stay. In Manila especially, workers are outsourced labor. Their company is hiring them at third-party contractors. So the job is outsourced by companies like Facebook or Google, for example. So the workers are never usually sure for who they are working for. First thing, I was amazed for so long that I never thought about how companies are sorting out all the content that users are sharing on online platforms. And that's where the idea of algorithmic illusion took shape even more for me. companies want, they want, of course, to keep this job a well-kept secret because it's not a really great job to do. Even more difficult to understand, we're talking about people that basically look at horrible things all day long under various type of formats like videos, pictures, text, etc. You know, for example, they can see like beheadings, rapes, accidents, self-harm videos, tortures videos, and so on. So workers are rapidly becoming depressed or show symptoms like PTSDs and other symptoms like visual or auditive hallucination. For example, it's a bit gore, but the case of this man working for Microsoft that found himself in the position of sorting out pedophile and child porn content. And then he sued Microsoft for having now PTSD and auditive hallucination like child cries at any moment of the day. There is usually absolutely no psychological supports provided by companies to help the workers on how to deal with this type of content. Very problematic and violent content. The reports I read on the working conditions are not that great either. So you can find now online many articles reporting on the subject, and of course, all the work that has been done by researcher Tara T. Roberts that we're going to talk with on Thursday the 12th. Please join if you want to know more about content moderation. The event is called Praying for Your Content and is also hosted by Swissnex San Francisco. There'll also be Hamid Ekbia, with one of the academics that coined the term heteromation. Maybe we'll come back on this notion later, otherwise on Thursday. So as an artist, it was really important for me to reflect on how, you know, images are influencing us, are shaping us, how visual and internet visual content are defining our train of thoughts. You know, and all this is drawing the image with which we are conceiving the word. That is where I thought that I needed to find a term to describe certain images, and more precisely to describe images that have effects. So I call them cursed images. The idea behind this term is that problematic images which trigger us or have a very specific effect on us, on our body, have some kind of immediate reaction. And then the cursed image haunts us. We can't forget it. Its memory is engraved in you. To give you an example, I once saw, when I was doing that research, a video of a man eating baby rats, and I can't erase this from my mind, and every time I think about it, I feel dizzy. There is so much more gruesome content than a man eating baby rats online, as you can imagine. Most of the moderators' testimonies are talking about how disgusted they were about humanity as a whole after doing that job. So I decided to go to Manila for a month back in June 2018, and I tried to find moderators willing to talk to me. In the process, it was really hard to talk to workers, almost impossible, partially because they are tied with a non-disclosure agreement in contract, and they're afraid of losing their jobs, of being sued by the company. So I chatted with some of them. I had some hints. I had some meetings that were canceled the last minute. It was really hard to meet actual workers like in real life. And also staying just for 1 month in Manila really prevented me for, you know, investigating as deep as I wanted, you know. And also I want to mention here that discovering the strong Catholic faith running in Manila street and culture, I started to weave in religious iconography into my outputs. I noticed moderators were justifying their work position as martyrs, and their act as sacrifice to maintain unhealthy social media for public good. What you're seeing now on the screen are video stills of a video work that was more like a visual diary that I did while I was in Manila, trying to make sense of all the visual and cultural material I was facing, and to make some kind of recording of my research activity on content moderation. I only use my phone as a medium and a media source, using apps to create these stories shaped like Instagram stories that I was not sharing online as at time, mainly discussed by social media companies. The shared images in Manila Stories, the title of this work, mainly consist of collages made from my own photographs, augmented with text, GIFs, and effects taken from internet and apps on my phone. The final video took a closer look on how social media companies are dealing with issues of censorship, offensive content, and outsource underpaid labor, post-colonial roots. And also it referred to Potemkin AI, or heteromation, work that is purported to be powered by sophisticated software when in reality it is actually done by humans behind a computer. So when I did present the video work in the gallery Rosenborch in Zurich, a few weeks after I came back from Switzerland, the display was the following. A screen was hooked to a computer, and with the help of a programmer, we made a software that was acting like an instant social media sharing tool. Anytime I wanted, I could share a new video or a new image directly onto the screen in the gallery space from my phone. So basically, there was no censorship or no previous visioning of the piece. You know, the gallerist Nina Hers really allowed me to stream anything I was doing into a gallery space screen, like streaming live everything that I was doing on my phone and then sharing them into the gallery space. Now I will start by showing images of the show we did in Centre Culturel Suisse in Paris last year, along with a publication called Praying for My Haters, and the show was also called Praying for My Haters. These works mainly produced for the show will be used as a base of discussion with Claire Hoffmann right now. So this is the first work that we can talk about maybe, or this was the sculpture I did. And the sculpture was also named Praying for My Haters.
Yes, hello, and thank you so much, Mary Ellyn and Lauren, for inviting me to join this webinar and this discussion. It's really enriching to delve into this very first exhibition again that I did at the Centre Culturel Suisse when I arrived there as a curator. And it was just maybe a few words on this project also when I decided to work with Lauren for this first show. It went back actually to the project that she talked about on AI, where we had collaborated. And I was then very impressed by the depth of her research on technological questions, but also on the sensibility and the artistic sensibility and solutions to somehow mediate these questions and these contents. So I think it was one of the shows where I learned most, and every time we talked about, I felt like I still needed to get more information on this particular topic. And it was also impressive to see how the feedback of the public was, because most of the people had never heard about this work of content moderation, and were also not only shaken by the actual topic, but also touched by Lauren's approach. So yes, so one challenge we faced while preparing the show was really a sort of basic complex contradiction in this very topic. The question how to do artworks on mainly invisible things, because after all, it is about an invisible labor of content moderations. The images and the contents that they work on are made invisible. That's the very aim of their work. And also invisible are the psychological wounds that they suffer from the work. So I remember our conversations, Lauren, that for you it was even a sort of ethical conflict not to reproduce these destructive contents, not to contribute to the dissemination of these images. And still there was the challenge to do this show. So what was your way out as an artist?
Yes, so that's a very interesting question. I guess sorry, I'm trying to maybe stop the sharing screen thing, or should I still share it? Maybe I can, yeah. Okay.
We can go to specific images when we talk about the works.
Maybe, yeah, okay. Are you talking about the invisible, you know, like the invisibilization? How can you say that in English? Like, all this work is made invisible by companies. So as an artist, I would answer that, you know, like, I'm not trying to do like a journalist or documentarist type of job. And like, I had to, you know, use my imagination and my creative input to understand, you know, like the complexity of the job, but also like everything that I lived in Manila, like waved in all my, you know, like visual outputs for that show.
So obviously you also did create visuals, and you created works, and you created things that were the public could experience with their eyes in the exhibition. And there was also various instances where you invited really to sneak peek inside. So maybe you could show the sculpture that you did for this.
Yeah.
So there was obviously you're mainly a video artist, but there was also a sculpture, and if I'm not mistaken, it was your first sculpture on that scale that you produced. So the idea was to replicate a part of downtown Manila where you had been, in a sort of a miniature landscape of these buildings where the content moderators work inside, a sort of a labyrinthic dystopian landscape with hidden rooms, double floors. So in a way, you decided for the materialization of the container rather than for the content when talking about content moderation. And you also decided to work with an architect for this. So maybe you can describe a little bit what your interest was and what you wanted to create, what atmosphere also emanated from this sculpture, not only from far, but also from this, maybe you can see it afterwards, the vision inside in the entraille, really in the belly of the sculpture.
So I made this sculpture with an architect named Benjamin Elliott. He's my friend. We started first to study, you know, pictures of Manila that I took, and especially Quezon City architectures, where I found the main building of Accenture when the content moderators were actually working on site. And it was so hard for me to have access to information and to also like talk to them, because they were really not ready to talk, you know. It was really hard to have access to any information about content moderation. So I just made the link in my head with the architecture, you know. Everything was quite hard to find. And also for our inspiration on the sculpture, we also reread the book Hell by Dante. And I saw some similarities with, you know, the circles of hell described by Dante in his book. And these elements were used to conceive the sculpture. So also inside the sculpture, as you can see on the picture, you could enter and put your head in, and you could see some kind of server room. I wanted to make a server room like some kind of dark data center where all those problematic images were stored, and I wanted to look like a crypt, just basically like a scary place. And also I put mirrors everywhere, so it's a bit hard to see it on that picture, but basically it was like a 360 kind of view inside this, like inside the table, like to to continue the metaphor of like the hidden work, like the hidden part of like Facebook or hidden parts of social media that we don't know. We have no idea how it works and like how it is moderated.
So before you also used the word of Potemkin for Potemkin
Yeah.
in AI, but this is also obviously an architectural term, and
Exactly.
in a way you also recreated this sort of facades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Where you also, and you even applied some distorted images of saints and the iconography on the facades of this building.
Yeah.
So externalize in a way these martyric images that you were inspired by.
Yeah, we can't really see on the pictures like the details, but they were yeah, indeed some images inside the building of it was more like Baroque icons, like Christian icons that I distorted, and I put, it was rather like an instinctive impulse for me to do that. But the idea of the facade, like that, because I spent like 3 days like filming that building in Manila. Actually, I took an hotel room right in front, and I tried to investigate. And at some point this massive building was in front of me, and I was trying to imagine like all those people doing this horrible job of looking at stuff, images all day long. And this was really like some kind of obscure and hidden and not accessible for the information was not accessible. And this is really the idea of like a sculpture as a facade, but also like as a dry skeleton somehow. So yeah.
Where also the access is somehow blocked, and there are all these stairs which lead nowhere, etc. And yeah, so you really infused also that atmosphere into the way that you built and constructed this Manila sculpture in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about the procedure and the way that you approach these very large and complex topics. So you described how you did the field work. So you went there, you filmed, you tried to be in touch with people. You got a sense for this oppressive surrounding, but then you also have this practice to be in conversation with specialists from the tech field and other areas. And for the project Praying for My Haters, you were in touch with two people, one psychologist, Manos Tsakiris, and a media historian, Yves Citon, with whom you had quite intense and very long conversations, which were then also part of our publication. And it is fascinating to see how they react on your terms, your images and metaphors, and they bring in new terms, which you then pick up, such as, you coined in a way this cursed image. And Yves Citon, the philosopher, the media historian and philosopher, then talked about radioactive images to describe the destructive way that these images somehow eat us up from inside when we see them. And Can you elaborate a little bit on how these two conversations were structured, also the way that you approach this whole project?
Yeah. So I consider the publication that we did together, Claire, was as important as the works in the show. This publication for me was really part of the show. It was, you know, it's always very interesting to submit your creative hypothesis to people that work in other research fields. And I guess I have sometimes loosey intuitions. And when I talk to people that, you know, have, you know, they're recognized in their field of knowledge, they're academics, you know, they're like validated by peers. I guess I can move on. I can think that my hypotheses are somehow valid. And as a visual artist, it's very important for me. With Yves Citon, you know, I submitted him the term cursed imagery. And, you know, the first immediate reaction, he was like, no. It's more like images that curse you, that have an effect, not images that contain the effect, the curse in them. It's very subtle, but I understood Yves' point of view, you know, and then he came with the idea of like an image that can be radioactive, in the sense that if you're in contact with your body is permanently damaged, like radioactivity, like how it modified the cells in the body of somebody that has, you know, been touched by radioactivity. So I found it's very interesting to also, Yves, we find, you know, like theoretical tools to put words on like stuff that is very hard to, you know, those things are very new, like all these things. Content moderation is a pretty new job. So to be able to think about all this, you have to invent new tool and new words. With Manos Tsakiris, I really wanted to explore if science had made more serious research on, you know, image impacts, influences, you know, how they influence us. Because images for me triggers a lot of feelings, and for me it's a bit naive to pretend that they're just images and they don't have like what we call now some kind of performative power, as Manos would have said. So I always felt that images are much more stronger than we tend to think, and they have, you know, an incidence. They move, they change our perception, and therefore paradigms, a reality. And as a visual artist, I think the status of images shifted toward something else. You know, with its instant like propagation, its new speed, it's you know, how it's like cut, paste, copy, all the modification that, you know, if you see something on TV, then like 5 minutes after you're going to see memes on your phone, and like it's spreading all type of media, all type of material, and this is for me super interesting. That's it.
Yeah, it was also interesting in the conversation with Manos, where he pointed out how images, I mean, do not only affect us, but and trigger our empathy or not, depending on how they're constructed and how they're chosen, but also how images can induce us to act or not. And thus, for example, feel empathy for a certain group of people and maybe then act accordingly, make a donation, for example. And that's maybe a positive way how images have a certain agens, trigger an activity, but then obviously there is also this very destructive part that you were talking about, and this destructive agency of images.
Yeah, especially, but if I can add to
go
that,
ahead. Yeah. Yes.
Especially, you know, like
sure.
in the work, the research I made about content moderation was not a happy place. You know, it's very dark. Like I've seen terrible things online, and your brain can pick up that it's not staged, it's not fake. It's actually, you know, like a recording of events, some kind of reality that happens somewhere at some time. So with Manos, we were just, you know, like really trying to understand how the brain, you know, deal with that on a daily basis. I think like if you watch your Facebook feeds and other news online, and of course you are affected by it, but as a content moderator, and that's what struck me the most, is like they watch horrible and problematic content many hours a day for like months. And you know, this is a new paradigm for me. This is a very horrible way of thinking about image spreading and images effects. So yeah, and that's this is where I can start like talking about the program for this year, online residency, or if you have another question, I can also.
Yeah, maybe just one aspect which we haven't talked about, and which also links in with the cursed and the healing aspect, is all the religious terms and also the religious iconography that both you found during your field research on site in Manila as a sort of way to escape the oppressive reality that these content moderators are living. So the figure of the martyr as a way to somehow identify with something that makes them go on. And then also the figure of the Saint Lucy
Yeah.
that you use in various works. For example, here, the Saint Lucy, which is this early Christian martyr who, yeah, there are various legends, but in the end she lost her eyes and is presented with new eyes by the Virgin Mary. And in the iconography, you can see her holding eyes on a plate, like here with the artist that you met in Manila is staging for you. And we found also in our discussion how fitting this iconography is for this new reality, this contemporary reality of externalized eyes outside of our bodies that need to look at things, which then in that way do not affect our body. So it's also, it opens also the question of inequality and this geographic inequality and the actually a colonial past that is infused within this inequality that the whole, let's say, European and American world somehow profits from this inequality, from the system that that is established. So let's come back to the Saint Lucy as a figure that you use, and also as on a broader sense, the religious images that are infused in your very body of work that you created for Praying for My Haters, which you can also hear in the title of the exhibition.
Yeah. So back when I was in Manila, I just noticed, you know, how a lot of everyday life things are connected to Christianity and spirituality. You know, this specific figure of the Saint Lucy came to me a bit like obvious for expressing something of a sacrifice, of martyr figure becoming, you know, like somebody doing the job, becoming like some kind of icon, like an example, like a model for moral and ethical values, you know, doing their parts for preserving some kind of, you know, I would say good internet, like well-behaved internet, like where everybody can go and find non-problematic things. So you know, like I found it very interesting in Manila how some people that I was in contact with, some content moderators, they had to use this kind of like you know, martyr figure as a tool, you know.
To help them make sense and survive
Make
the conditions.
Exactly, and you know, like Yves Citon, who I interviewed for this project and helped me a lot, and then he came to do a conference at Centre Culturel Suisse also last year. He kind of put it in a different way, but it's also like very interesting to me. He said that, you know, there was maybe some tools, some resources, remedies, tricks that can come from the religious experience, the religious faith, and the feeling of like how you can deal with you know, horrible images on a moral and ethical level. Like, how can I deal with the humans? How can I still believe in something when I see on a repetitive, you know, like scale, or repetitive, you know, horrible things all day long? And I think Eve also said that maybe we can learn from that, and I found it super interesting for me as as an artist.
So this is what brought you also to try and find out if there are healing aspects of images, or the more
exactly.
healing side of your project.
Yeah, the healing side of my project. So that's basically what I gonna talk about right now. So maybe I will stop sharing this one, and then we're gonna see people again.
So I just want to mention one detail for the audience. If you have questions that pop up, please don't hesitate to use the Q&R function, where you can already insert your questions, which will then be addressed at the end of this presentation and questions. So thank you so much, Lauren. I'll hand over to Mary Ellyn, who is in discussion with you about the second part of the project, where it's more about the healing aspect.
So I'm gonna briefly introduce key notions here, and like, you know, what I'm planning to do this year. So I'm gonna share again something here. This year, I really want to focus and do research on how we can heal from problematic content. And to quote Mireille Berton, which I hope we could invite for this online residency and this panel of discussion program, and to talk here about the internet. She said that first, when a new media appear, you know, every time a new media form appear, there's always this pattern. The pattern is first, the first phase, there is usually 3 phases. The first phase is the enthusiastic phase, the utopian phase. It's like we're all amazed, we all think it's amazing, you know, it's gonna connect the whole world, etc. Then the second phase is the apocalyptic phase, the chaotic phase. So I believe we are in this one right now with internet. And the third phase is more peaceful. We know, you know, we know it, we can analyze it, we understand it, and that's the third phase. So most of the media, this 3 phases are happening as a pattern. So my goal for this year is doing this online residency, and then I will go in Silicon Valley myself, like not just online, but do field research, I hope. You know, my goal is to find solutions, tools, and theories, and you know, and produce cultural objects so we can transition into the third phase somehow. I don't know if that's clear, but that's what I'm trying to do. So here I'm going to talk about, for example, one example I want to do this year online, and this is a form I previously done for the Photographers Gallery in London. It was called Screen Walk. And for the Screen Walk, I decided it's basically like a Zoom, you know, like conference, like exactly what we're doing right now. And I decided to download a software on my computer, like AnyDesk or TeamViewer, and allow people to access in my computer. So it was 1 hour long, and I told people that, you know, they can access inside my computer and look for stuff, basically. So here are images of, you know, like what it doesn't look that exciting because it's like, you know, like a laptop screen, but, you know, it's to see like people really engaged with the computer, and they really like, you know, try to open the webcam, open some stuff on the internet, played some music, you know, they really used like, they also try to go in the terminal of the computer and like, you know, code some stuff. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I want to explore, is maybe to let people in my computer for an hour. So I will secretly moderate them as I want to. Another proposition I want to explore is this therapy called EMDR. I don't know if you familiar with, but EMDR is like a practice, psychotherapy treatment, you know, that use the eye movement to remove traumatic experiences. So I didn't say that in the first part, but like most of the content moderators have absolutely no psychological support. And they're really usually very traumatized, you know, after this work, when usually they stop after 4 or 5 months, even before they stop doing that job. So I think we can find some kind of treatment to heal from problematic content. And I think like EMDR can be like, you know, like a path. Then I stumbled on this new book by Lev Manovich called Cultural Analytics, and this I would find very exciting to, you know, explore what Lev Manovich, this academic, is trying to put in place. But basically, he's trying to suck up all the content online, basically the content on internet, and like trying to find a pattern and analyze it. So it's basically big data, but like for cultural content. And this I think would be very much interesting to explore. Other things I want to do for the residency, excuse me, this year is to invite people and talk to them, you know, interview them, because I think the format of the interview is always very rich and brings a lot. So I really focus on recovery and remedy processes from what I call cursed media. And I'll try to organize collective workshops and seminars and panel discussion, maybe calls for participation. And I will also try to do online performances. I think that's, yeah, I think that's a quite quick presentation of what I want to do. And Mary Ellyn, if you have some question, I can stop sharing this.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. You know, it's funny, there's a couple of things that spring to mind instantly when thinking about removing trauma and thinking about Manila and Catholicism and what this next step in Silicon Valley might be. And I'm thinking, you know, in a place where tech is God, there, you know, not Catholicism, what might your research look like here in Silicon Valley with the tech community, and, you know, how might there be some healing that comes out of that from your research here?
I think that's why I'm so drawn into the San Francisco and Bay Area and Silicon Valley, like, area, because it's such an incredible territory for having at the same time like incredible, the hippie movement and like all that things like Fred Turner also like explained really well, like how belief of cybernetics waved into like hippie, like way of lives, and like how the tech communities, just like was born on that base of like, a utopia, utopia thinking, utopia, communication utopia, and like, hey, if we can, all communicate with each other, it's going to be like a great word. And there was also like, libertarian thoughts behind it, like we don't need the government anymore and all these things. So this is like a very complex history, but that's why it makes San Francisco so interesting for me, because like it really, it's all in brick, how can you say, it's all, like it's a very complex and interesting mix for me of all these ideas all together. And when I first came to San Francisco to do a project about artificial intelligence, I, met people that were super interested in, like the tech side, the logical sides of programming, of computer, of AI, but also like those people were also like very connected in the spiritual sense, they were very aware of their own belief and, what they are doing and what's implied when they work on this type of tools and technologies. So I say, like, for me, San Francisco is such a fantastic research, field for that, because every time you talk to somebody and he's gonna try to give you like rational answers, you just dig a little deeper, and then it's so much more than that, like, like what's at stake every time. So that's always fascinated me. And I think like what's fascinated me is like what's going on in people's head, what are their beliefs.
Yeah, and beliefs are often private, and I'm just thinking about how tech companies are also private, and just thinking about what you spoke of with non-disclosure agreements, and for the content moderators, but then also for these tech companies, how open or not open. They're famously closed, right? I'm just thinking about some of these, like the movie that just came out on The Social Network, and there's been much discussion about how much they're controlling us and how much we're allowed to know. So thinking of your research here, you and I have talked about how you might exchange with these tech companies. Do you have an idea of who would you ideally speak with if you could, and what would come out of those conversations, or what if there isn't no way in?
What I learned by doing research is like there's always a way in. There's always somebody willing to speak and to share his or her experience. Like there's always somebody willing to, give you details about their job. It's more easy for somebody that, has finished a job, so he can, he or she can talk about it. But I think things are opening up, I can feel that people are trying to start to understand that, there should be a transparency regarding, for example, like how the algorithm works, And like in that case of content moderation, like we should know that using, those platforms, it creates a lot of pain, on the other side, that it's not just like magically automated. It's human labor behind it, and most of it, it follows colonial roots. It follows like most of the job in the US is made in Manila, and in India, the moderating content, for example, from Britain is also made in India. Moderating like French content is made in North Africa or, West Africa. Like you can see the colonial root of, where these big companies are looking for cheap labor, like to do this horrible job. So I think, it started to opening up, and I there's more and more conversation about this topic, I feel like.
In a sense, the research you're doing with content moderators isn't in the Silicon Valley. It's not here in the Bay Area. It'll continue to be in other spaces. I know you did a call to content moderators in your first part of your research, and you intend to do that again to have conversations with them. I wonder how will your conversations change and evolve for the second part of engagement? How are you thinking of working with them?
So I think also when I was doing the first project, back in Manila, I was trying to be really cautious of not reproducing, colonial behaviors, and trying not to, apply my point of view on, what this people on site were thinking and feeling and all this. So I think because the project evolved so much, even in few months, where I was supposed to have the show at Swissnex a few months ago, and it didn't happen because of the pandemic. I feel like this time I really want to connect with moderators and have their real opinion on things. And I know the field is evolving so much. I know, for example, like in Barcelona, there is a center for content moderation, and they started to, for example, put the gruesome, violent video content in black and white without sound, so it's affecting less the content moderators. So I think the more I learn about the subject, the more like my questions and my approach will change. And also like we're gonna talk to Sarah T. Roberts on Thursday, and she's the worldwide expert on content moderation, and she is really, really, really knowledgeable on the subject. So every time I talk to her, or like I hear her, I found new things.
Mm-hmm. We have a question in our chat that is related to who you might meet with in the Silicon Valley. And this person asks if you plan to meet with progressive celebrities in and around Silicon Valley.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Progressive celebrities.
Progressive, yeah.
Hi, Ulrike. Do you mean like TV or media celebrities, or progressive, like tech people?
I'm guessing Ulrike means like Mark Zuckerberg, but perhaps just to let you know, Ulrike, you're welcome to join the conversation on screen with us if you raise your hand. And if you don't mind being on screen, you're welcome to have a direct conversation with Lauren. Otherwise, we'll keep going.
Yeah, I would totally be interested to meet some great figure, but those people, they have no time to waste, and usually when they see visual artists, they're like, I don't think I will, but you never know. Sometimes they are keen to talk even for like few minutes, and they will deliver something, um, maybe interesting or maybe not that interesting. But yeah, I want to meet as much as people as possible and try to understand like what's going on in their heads, basically.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you one more question about doing research with, for example, a social media company and what that might look like. What would be your ideal scenario with, say, Facebook?
Ideal scenario with Facebook is that they will be 100% transparent on how it works. So there's so much uncertainty still, like they are editing this guideline for, censorship, like how they censor the content on their platform. I wish they would be more transparent so they can, tell the public what's really going on. I guess, yeah, that would be a first step for me.
How do you think we might recover from this trauma? And you've already spoken a bit about it, but through these events, through this research, through this exhibition, how might we actually break the curse or the media bewitchment and recover? Do you have any other thoughts on what that might be like?
Yeah, I think we just need to build tools and theoretical tools to understand media, basically understand their influence on us and how they're really affecting our behaviors. Yeah. And this will be really like the core of my research this year on how to heal, but also how to find collective solutions. On like I call it media bewitchment, and I think I got this term from Yves Citon, because I think there really is something about possession here, like to be possessed by. So it's really, like it's not the regular vocabulary we would talk about these things, but for me as an artist, I feel like that's where everything is at stake, like where it's, yeah, like, because we can't really, understand really how it works, and also like it goes so fast. Like the changes in technological tools and the changes on internet and how information is spread, that for me there is no time for critical analysis in that sense. Like we have no time to think about it, basically. So I think that's how it can be a little complicated to make sense of it all.
So I'm also wondering about how your practice in thinking about, because we're doing an online residency, but as you said, we hope that there's also physical aspects when we have a vaccine or some change in our pandemic. I wonder, before the pandemic, you and I had talked for a while about this exhibition for this fall, which is now going to be in 21. I'm wondering how you imagine these two exhibitions might be different from each other as you've been impacted, perhaps your practice, but also, yeah, what will change with this coming out of this year of engagement? Like what will be different?
Well, a lot of things will be different, because like when I first wrote the project for the exhibition at Swissnex, there was one chapter of the video I wanted to realize, I wanted to write, and the chapter was called Images as Viruses. And so I feel like we're like in the heart of the subject now, images spreading like viruses, and also virus spreading like viruses. So I think we're definitely, entered a very strange moment in history for us as living humans. And I think this will like automatically be, part of all the things that I'm gonna do for the show at Swissnex. And I wanted to say here that all the research that I'm doing online and then offline on the field in Silicon Valley when I come in a few months is all of this will be the base of like all the work I'm gonna produce, especially for the show.
Okay. I think we'll open up the Q&A even more to our audience. And Claire, if you want to join us again on screen, please do. Just a reminder to our audience that you can insert your questions in the Q&A function on Zoom, but also we would love if you wanted to interact with us face-to-face. If you raise your hand, the host will upgrade you to be visible. You just have to turn on your camera and your mic. As we are open to hearing about your experience, questions, opinions, suggestions, theories, beliefs. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, I do have another question for you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Do you think there is any new opening for artists being able to influence business decision makers, or even of business as usual itself being totally reconsidered as a result of people's experience of the pandemic? I said that a little strangely, but has the shutdown given new opportunity for bewitchment in a sense? So do you think, can artists influence business decision makers?
I have no idea, honestly. Business decision maker, I have no idea. I wish, but I don't think, I always think like as artists, we're just like so disconnected from, like we always, it's hard for an artist to be in a capitalistic society, I would say. So it's just like we always like bring some unrealistic, ideas and goals, and sometimes maybe it works that some business decision can be made regarding artists, but in the sense of the whole project I'm trying to do, I don't quite understand the question in that sense. And maybe yeah, I'm not sure if I really understood like the second part of the question is like, has the shutdown given a new opportunity for bewitchment in a sense? I think definitely more and more people are working from home. More and more people are like stuck, in front of their computers. We're doing this right now. We're just like, there are 20 people with us. So we're 24 people listening to each other through, computer media. And that's why also I placed my webcam like a bit like in this surveillance camera style, because for me, surveillance is also a very important topic. And yeah, I think bewitchment is definitely, media bewitchment is definitely at play here.
Oh, there we have Laura. Welcome, Laura. This question came from Laura.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, it was a bit strangely worded, Lauren, but that's what I was getting at. The second part of it, I think that there are some new opportunities for capturing people's, I don't know, hearts maybe, instead of brains, through the being at home and kind of being able to sort of more directly connect. I don't know about with decision makers, but I was just thinking like, I feel like the fact that we have to kind of like engage through this little rectangle here, and mostly we're in, like a room alone and not surrounded kind of by the normal posses and whatnot, like that there might be some opportunity for greater access to just like the human beings, since yeah, I mean, even the, you know, people making business decisions are still human beings. And I just, yeah, my question was kind of getting at more that access, like if there's any kind of greater opportunities for access during the shutdown. And then I was kind of playing with your notion of bewitchment, thinking about could we bewitch people in new ways?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, I think I gave some elements of answers, but I don't think I can go further on that question because it's a really hard question. But yes, definitely. You know, I think like for me, I see internet as a portal, you know, and you know, in sci-fi, portals are always dangerous. You always have to be careful on how, you know, you open it and how you close it and how you travel inside them. And I think, yeah, that's my answer.
I love it. Thank you.
So there's one more thing I wanted to bring up with you, Lauren, that I was thinking about, which is the U.S. presidential election, the election that we're in the midst of right now. There's something connected in my mind about thinking about truth and distrust of media, this constant question of media bias. And you and I chatted a little bit about mysticism, which of course is about becoming divine, but one could say is connected when you want, someone who wants to become president perhaps has ideas of divinity, right? But there's something about these government systems and roles, and I'm wondering if there's any connection in media bewitchment to what we're facing today about truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's for example, like as an element of answers, I recently listened to that podcast called made by the BBC called the Missing Crypto Queen. And it's about this giant scam on crypto coin that this this woman, Dr. Ruja Ignatova, started. And so basically what happened is like the entire scam is to make people believe that they have to invest in this new cryptocurrency. And so people try to invest. And then the FBI show up and say, wait, you know, it's a giant scam, it's a hoax, and it's here to steal people money. And what happened is what they did is saying that the FBI were basically haters, and proving, you know, that because this cryptocurrency was supposed to destabilize the banks and the governments, that, you know, governments were fighting back in a sense, and it was proving that the cryptocurrency was not a scam for people who believed in them. And then I researched on that, and then this academic called Eileen Barker, she's a specialist in religious field. She has elements of answer saying like, if you invest so much of your intelligence and your belief in something, and then somebody tell you on internet or in the media that you're wrong, it's practically impossible to be able to recognize that. And so I think, especially in the US, so I feel like it's kind of crazy, you know, what's going on right now is like conspiracy theories like QAnon and all these things, like it's very hard to have like something you can hold to. And I think once you find these things, like in psychological behaviors, in human behaviors, you hold to that thing, and it's really, really hard to understand that, you know, you were wrong, and like everything that you invested in terms of money and intelligence and belief, you know, was wrong in a sense. And I feel that this can be like some kind of elements of answer why, you know, like it's becoming kind of like, you know, a crazy sphere of people contradicting themselves, you know, and like arguing, and so much hate speech and all this, you know, things are very problematic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, are there any more questions out there? Or Claire, anything else you want to reflect on?
Well, it's just one element maybe when we talk about religion and politics. Obviously, at the moment in France, there is a very, very high debate about politics and laicity. I don't know if that's the correct term in English, but basically the fact that the state is not connected to religion. So even though there are like religious maybe belief systems that also uphold the fiction of politics, these terms of the religious belief systems and the political system or the self-definition of the French state are very, very much apart. And that's one like basic distinction that is incredibly important to make. So it was just interesting to hear that suddenly these things could also merge, or that there are actual processes that are similar to these belief systems, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. On that note, is there any last thoughts? Otherwise, we'll conclude for the day. I want to thank everybody for joining this kickoff with Lauren. We're excited about this year of working together. And there's more to come this week. We have another event tomorrow called Does AI Have a Gender? That Lauren will be speaking at. There's a fabulous panel of women speaking. That's at 9:30 Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. And also on Thursday, we have our event Praying for Your Content, where we're joined by Hamid Ekba from the Indiana University and Sarah Roberts from UCLA. And we'll dig even deeper into the subject of content moderation. So thank you. Thank you so much, Claire. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to Lauren's residency outcomes.
Yes.
And all the best for your events.
And thank you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much, Claire. And yeah, let's talk soon. And we're going to see each other online pretty often now.
Yes.
Online for the moment.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.